Today we're on location here at Heroes Aren't Hard to Find for a special episode of 282 that's all about comics.
This is our season 1 finale. Thank you guys for watching us all season. Continue to follow us on Twitter at 282TV, on Facebook.com/282TV. You can see a great archive of 15 episodes from this season at cotblog.com/282.
I'm Carlton Hargrove.
I'm Jarvis Holiday.
And this is 282. So we're here today at 282 with a great group of guests. I want to introduce everybody. We've got Warren Cooksey, who's a Charlotte City Councilman. We've got John Harrison, a renowned local artist. And we've also got Shelton Drum, who's the owner of Heroes Aren't Hard to Find and the founder, owner, everything, right? The Godfather.
Yeah.
All right.
It was
cool.
just me in the beginning.
Okay, yes, that's right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. You know, this special episode, we're talking all about comics, of course. And Shelton, I want to start with you because everyone knows right now that The Avengers is the big movie of the day. The box office returns have been incredible, broken all kind of records. And there are other ones coming out. Dark Knight's coming out. We've also got Spider-Man coming out. Big superhero summer.
Right.
But, you know, a lot of times when these superhero movies come around and comic book-based movies, it doesn't necessarily translate into sales at local comic shops. And I wonder, how do you feel about this season so far? Have you seen people coming in as a result of seeing the Avengers or something like that? Have you seen an increase in sales?
Absolutely. Avengers has expanded the market, I think.
Okay.
It's so universally accepted, you know, that we've got new customers coming in for sure.
Okay. Now, normally, what are the sales like based on comic book-oriented movies? Do you see a big uptick?
Depends on the movie and how well the comic books are representing that or the title itself. The Avengers have been very strong for a couple of years. Marvel has been anticipating this, you know, for sure.
Right.
So they've got a lot of good product out there. The Avengers is 50 years old, so there's a lot of backlist as well that can be put back in print. And just about every good Avengers story ever is in print.
Uh-huh. Well, why do you think that doesn't necessarily always mean that you're going to get big sales, though?
Well, I mean, if a movie bombs,
like Green Lantern or something like that?
something like that, there's not a whole lot of excitement coming out of the movie.
Right.
We see more sales on movie titles before the movie.
Okay.
Almost invariably.
Oh, right.
Watchmen's a great example. We sold hundreds of Watchmen trade paperbacks leading into the movie, and sales stopped when it was.
It was not good. Yeah. Now, what about you guys? I'm kind of wondering, you know, he was talking about expanding the market, and I think everybody that reads comic books or knows anything about comic books knows that the market has been shrinking over the past few decades. What do you think can be done to expand it other than the movies? Or do you feel like the movies is probably our biggest hope in doing that? John, I'll start with you.
Well, what I'll go ahead and say is, as far as comic book films expanding the market, you think about how children are able to see these movies and then they want to go ahead and do more of the research. They have the cartoons that come on television afterwards. So for example, you have a Spider-Man movie that's coming out this summer, and they have the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon that goes along with it that's also tied into movies like The Avengers. You think about kids like me, like how I grew up. When I grew up, the first Batman film, the one with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, I read comics before, but I had no desire to read comic books until the first Batman came out. Then I had to go back and get everything. Okay. And that's kind of what started the love affair. So think about how the Avengers movie is so successful now, and how like there are a bunch of kids that see this movie and have probably are familiar with the Incredible Hulk or familiar with Captain America or Thor, and never thought anything about it, but now all of a sudden they want to read. Okay. They want to read the book, so I think it brings more people there.
Warren, what do you think?
I wouldn't propose to think that I know all the ins and outs of the business model for this.
Right.
But what I observe, and just as an aside, this is Small Business Month in Charlotte.
That's
so
right.
It's great that we're here celebrating a Charlotte-based small business. One of the things that I see is the multiple ways that this concept of heroes and storytelling can reach people. Between movies, John mentioned, you know, cartoons on TV. It all starts with comic books, but there are multiple ways for people to approach these topics and to figure out how they want to approach them. Now, there are going to be folks who go movies only, and that's okay, but the better options, they had their options if they want to see the movie and then learn, you know, either prepare for it, like Shelton talked about with The Watchmen, by reading the background material before getting there, or if, as in John's case, it creates this lifelong love of the topic, there are multiple ways people can get involved, and I think that helps sustain the business model.
Right.
Although I do wish DC would do as good a job as Marvel as coordinating their
With the movies, yeah.
because if there's going to be an Avengers movie, there should be a Justice League movie.
Well, you know, that's a difficult thing, you know, because Marvel has their own studio and
Yeah.
finance their own films now. So, but they still have a little mess going on with movies like The Punisher
Yeah.
and things like X-Men, and you know, that are kind of rogue licensed properties. You know what I mean?
right.
You said rogue in relation to it. Nicely done. Nicely done.
But I'm bummed,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But Sheldon, I want to ask you something. Speaking of, you know, Small Business Month, and you know, I want to tie that back in. But everybody knows the economy has kind of tanked over the last few years, and you know, for all intents and purposes, the recession is over, and we're supposed to see business improving. What's been the effect for you as far as Charlotte consumers? Have they started coming back more, or did you ever see like a hit?
We did see sort of a hit, but I think for us, comics were expanding the base anyway through the recession. Our sales overall really weren't hurt too bad by the recession.
Okay.
Knock on wood. I mean, we saw some customers leave because they lost their job and they couldn't come in every week, but we saw 2 new customers come in and start buying comics.
Okay.
You know, I think I'm really lucky. I count my blessings on that.
Well, you know, a lot of people, I was talking to somebody before, and they were talking about Heroes, and they were saying, I was saying, you know, there are other shops in the city. They said there are. I think a lot of people think that Heroes is sort of the only comic book shop. I mean, you guys do a really good job of doing what you do. But let me tie that into talking about the Heroes Convention. I actually have on a Heroes Convention t-shirt. This is from 2010, Hellboy. But the next one is coming up.
Sign this year, Michael will be back.
Yes, oh, he'll be back. Okay, I was about to go into that. So, Heroes Con, what's the date of the Heroes Con this summer?
June 22nd, 3rd, and 4th.
So, June 22nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's coming around again, and I want to get an idea of what people can expect. I know you got some really big guests coming this year. So, give us an idea of what we can look forward to.
Well, the biggest guest is Stan Lee.
Stan Lee,
Yeah.
who, folks, that if you don't know, Stan Lee is the guy that created so many folks. Spider-Man, X-Men, co-created. That's right, that's true. Spider-Man, the Hulk, you know, Thor. The list goes on and on. Everybody that you see, Captain America. Well, he didn't do Captain America.
he was involved.
That was Joe Simon and Jack
Joe
Kirby.
Simon and Jack
Yeah.
Kirby created Captain America in 1940.
But he
But
revived
he was
him.
writing some of it, I thought. So.
Well, he was about 17 years old then.
I'll stay away from Marvel.
He was
I
a
should
copy
stay away
boy
from
at Timely at the time.
That's right.
And Stan's first writing job was a text piece for Captain America #3.
Oh, wow.
That's what I was thinking.
That's
of.
heavy.
So.
In that story, Cap threw his shield for the first time.
Oh, okay.
So he kind
Okay.
of established that.
Was it round at that point? You had the shield?
I think at that point it's
shield
probably
was
still
Still kind of
a
done.
triangular shaped shield.
Anyway, let's not geek out too much. Stan Lee's coming.
Stan Lee is coming.
Who else?
It's
So,
too
I
late
mean, that's
for
pretty
that.
big. Is he going to be signing autographs? What is
He will be signing
okay.
autographs and posing for photographs. It's kind of a business for him now.
Yeah, I bet.
to do that.
That's big. Okay, so who else can we look forward to
Oh
seeing?
my goodness. Well, Mike Mignola's coming.
Okay.
Actually, we have 300 professional artists on the guest list right now. It's almost impossible for me to remember a lot of them without looking at a cheat sheet. But
Right.
we have a lot of really great artists and writers coming to the show.
Now, I want to delve a little deeper into Heroes Con in a second, but I do kind of want to get you guys to chime in on what you're looking forward to Heroes Con this year, or just what you look forward to with the convention in general.
Are you,
What do you
are you
think?
kidding? Like every night, Heroes Con, like that's been the one thing I've looked forward to for like the last 20 years. Like
Okay.
it's always been there. Like since when my family first moved back to Charlotte, back in like '89, like I probably went to the first convention in '90, if not, yeah, I think it was in '90. So it was the first time I went to the convention.
Wow.
And every year it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there are more artists, and there's like, oh, this guy's here or this guy's here. And so often I'm more familiar with the work than I am the actual names and faces.
Okay.
So to be able to put a name and a face and to be able to talk to those people, I can't wait, dude. I'm rubbing elbows with people I admire.
And you've been going for 20 years, but this is actually the 30th anniversary coming up.
That's right.
Is that right? Okay. Warren, what about you? What are you looking forward to this year or in general?
I was talking with Shelton about this before the cameras rolled. I put it in the terms of 1,500 room nights.
Oh, okay.
That's how many room nights at Weston Shelton's got booked formally for this con. What I approach this, again, as a council member and looking at Small Business Month, is that the con is yet another example of how a small business can have a very significant impact on the local economy. Here we have a local business owner who is hosting his own convention in his hometown, which is a great thing. You could go anywhere with this convention. You could take it to other cities. Other cities ask you, but you keep it here, and I appreciate that. And that's something that I think that we, as a city, could do a better job appreciating, that we have homegrown talent that brings people to Charlotte, in addition to having the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority go out and bring other conventions here. That's an important role too.
Okay.
But between, we got Shelton with HeroesCon, the merchandise, the Southern Women's Show, the Southern Spring Show, those sorts of things that happen that are homegrown, those are great too. And it's an important part of our economy, particularly as it grows and grows and grows.
Well, that brings me to another aspect of the conversation is, I kind of want to get your opinion about this, but for the most part, I don't know how much the city has really played a role in promoting and pushing HeroesCon, and I wonder, so do you think that it hasn't, or what can it do more?
Well, part of the dilemma is that's not quite the role. The role of the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority, for example, which is a separate entity from city government, is to promote Charlotte in general and convention activity in particular. But it's focused outward towards bringing people in. With Shelton, with HeroesCon, we have a guy locally who is basically augmenting that for a particular convention, which is great. But to the extent that folks could work together, there's always opportunities for folks to work together more, I think.
Well, Shelton, I know we've talked before about like San Diego Comic-Con and how the city basically turns into a comic book city. And their businesses and government and everything is really supporting and pushing it. And I wonder, what would you like to see the city do, or local business entities or whatever do to kind of push along this as a cultural and a business moment in the city?
I've thought about this a lot, and I'd like to see some kind of signage or banners or something downtown would be really nice. I checked into it several years ago, and I really would need to find a sponsor to do the printing. And,
so in order to get those banners,
it's all about
you have to pay for it yourself.
Somebody's got to pay for it. The city's not going to pay for it. But
and that type of conversation opens up a whole nother organization. One of the complexities of local government is and just local activity in general is the different organizations that exist. When we talk about banners uptown, that's Center City Partners, another separate organization that does receive tax money for its purposes, much like the CRVA does. But they're still run independently. They have their own rules, their own contacts, and so on. So that's something that becomes a challenge for a local operator like Shelton. If someone is coming from out of town, the CRVA will handle the coordination, or Center City Partners would handle the coordination. If you're here locally, figuring out those connections can be a challenge, and that, I think, broadly speaking, opens up another possibility of what we as a city, or particularly city government, might be able to do better. We're doing a little of that. I shouldn't say a little. We got an award for it, so we're doing a lot. Small business in general. Last year, we started CharlotteBusinessResources.com to try to channel for people who want to start a business all the resources that we have. We could do a better job, and I think with Shelton's help and others, do a better job of highlighting even more what we've got locally.
Well, let me before I get back to you, Shelton, on that, I want to get John to chime in, because you're an artist, and I want to get from an artist point of view. I mean, what more do you think could be done to kind of promote not only the HeroesCon, but just sort of the culture itself of comics and in the city?
Wow.
Do you think the city's doing a good enough job?
Well, honestly, I never was able to associate the two and say, okay, wow, that's a good question.
That's what I do, man. I ask good questions.
No, you ask good questions. You ask good ones. I really don't know what the city could do as far as promoting the HeroesCon better. I never thought about it, because, I mean, to me, it was just always the biggest thing. So, I mean, I always knew about what was going on, because I always stayed, like, right there. You know what I mean? So I don't know about getting other people unfamiliar with, like, the comic books as a whole involved.
I'll admit, we're a niche. I've been building a customer base for over 30 years. So I've got a mailing list of 25,000 bona fide comic collectors in the region, and we can market to them through direct mail. Our website gets a lot of activity this time of year, because we send out 2 newsletters a week, and So it's a lot my fault because I'm busy with my day-to-day business and I don't have time to go out and lobby
Right.
to find resources. I mean, the convention was not an afterthought, but it was just something we did once a year to help promote the business
Right.
that went on every day. And over the years, it's grown and grown and grown, and now it's its own entity. You know?
It's
So
really one of
taken
the
on a
biggest
life of
shows
itself,
in the
and-
Southeast, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still only have the same staff,
Wow.
you know, working day to day as I've always had.
Well, what about, you know, when you talk about the Sydney City Partners, and what about entities like the Arts and Science Council? I mean, to me, there's so many intersects that could, you know, make this something more than just a niche event, but something that the whole
Cartoons
city
and
could be
comics,
involved.
is that art?
Well, and let's address that little elephant and Shelton's point about this being a niche concept. There is that marketing difficulty.
Right.
Yes, we all understand the movies are blockbusters and superheroes have been part of America since, you know, since Superman, you know, was
Right, yeah.
bashing the car on the cover of Action 1. But there's still also that other side of the coin, the other perception of, well, it's those guys.
Right.
It's the niche guys. I'm not going to use any of the other pejorative terms, but
Right,
we all know
right.
what they are.
Besides Stan Lee,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't have any
Yeah.
idea who actually created
Yeah.
these characters and concepts and archetypes, you know, and the artists are so important to us.
Totally.
You know, everybody in the niche market, we know Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko
Oh, yeah.
and all the creators right on down the line. And it's kind of a shame that you know, once the movies get out there, it's all about the actors. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. That's Iron Man.
Right.
Well, you know, Don Heck and Jack Kirby and Stan Lee were Iron Man.
Right, right.
As far as I'm concerned.
Well, speaking of, let's take it back to the art, and we can actually tie this into a project that John is working on coming up. You being a fine artist, really like a serious artist, you've done a lot of really major stuff, murals, shows, really heavy stuff, and now you're doing a show that is tied into the origins of kind of Marvel Comics itself. Tell us about the show. What's the concept behind it?
The concept behind it, we're talking about 1962, which is I guess the year that Marvel decided to revolutionize. I'm sorry, yeah, really, they decided to revolutionize everything. They went from going to doing the sort of classic sci-fi kind of horror tales with like the cowboy westerns or the war dramas, and did more expanded.
Fantastic Four.
Fantastic,
came out
the
in
superheroes,
61,
that's
and by
right, yeah.
62,
Thank you.
Stan and his artists had created a universe.
That's right. They created a whole universe, and it's awesome. I mean, everything that I still continue to read now came out in '62.
Okay.
So I mean, you're talking about your Spider-Man, your Iron Man.
Right.
Your we talked about what was it? Spider-Man, Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk. Like everybody, Thor, everybody that I'm familiar with, everybody that anyone's familiar with, pretty much. In the Marvel Universe came out during 1962. So it's
So
on the
with-
50th anniversary of these characters.
Okay, so you're basically doing interpretations of them from
At that time period, yes, sir. And
Okay.
I love it so much because I like Clunky Iron Man a whole lot.
So
without
yeah,
geeking out too much.
so one of the pieces we actually have some pieces here, and we'll show them. But tell me about like the Iron Man piece and the Sergeant, the Captain or Sergeant Fury one.
Well, Nick Fury wasn't Samuel Jackson at first. I loved the Samuel Jackson Nick
wasn't?
Fury. No. Believe it or not, he was not. He was not. That's right. He was David Hasselhoff. He was Shelton a couple years. Actually, that's when I fell in love with Shelton right there. He was Nick Fury for Halloween a couple years back. I was like, you're Nick Fury. I know exactly who you are. He had that.
Pirate of you.
Right, no, he was like, he had a cigar, and he was like, oh, you're so awesome. But no, I like the idea. I like the tough as nails Nick Fury, the Howling Commandos, the Gabriel Joneses, and Dugan. Oh my gosh, they're all so neat, and everybody has their own personalities, and they're a band of brothers, kind of like the X-Men were before the X-Men. They were.
Right.
Except they're in like World War II. It takes place in World War II, and I'm thinking like
I never thought about that. They are kind of similar.
Yeah, it's like no guts, no glory, kind of. Let's go get them, that kind of thing, and I love it.
And so, are you you're known for sort of incorporating your own personal stories and stuff into your pieces. Are you going to kind of put that John Harrison magic on
There's
it?
some.
Okay.
There's some that are like that. Others I play just completely straight, but others, like some that I have like that I totally identify with. That I like. There's like little bits and pieces of me like somewhere in there. I mean,
Right.
I can't not do that, but I mean, well, I can do that. I can not do that, but This was too big, man. This is like, I mean, I've been waiting to do this. Like, actually, I didn't even know I was gonna do anything like this like my whole life. Like,
Okay.
so, you know, me being like 12 years old, coming to Heroes Aren't Hard to Find, and thinking that maybe one day I would have a show over here,
Right.
Heroes Aren't Hard to Find. You must be kidding, sir.
Now, what's the date of the actual
June
show?
1st.
June 1st, and that's
Yes.
going to be here at Heroes.
Well, that's the opening reception.
That's the opening reception. That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
The paintings are going to hang the entire month of June, so everyone coming to Heroes Con has an opportunity to
Oh, wow.
come through here and see it. We always have a couple of parties here too, so a lot of the creators will be here and get a chance to see John's work.
I'm pretty excited.
So what is the idea behind doing an art show that is comic tied? I know you did one before at 22 that was more like original comic book art pages. What's the idea? Do you want to really kind of, I mean, yeah, I don't want to speak for you. Tell me what's the idea about doing an art show like that?
Well, I mean, to me, comics are art. I collect a lot of original comic art personally. I love it. So the 22 show was a chance to show off a lot of different artists. We had an art show here right after we opened with Paul Pope.
Okay.
And we sold some pieces and, you know, had a good time. I've been wanting to get to a point where I could have a gallery situation in here with comic art. I don't know that we're going to do it every month, but I'd like to do it more regularly. And I'd asked John if he would be interested in doing something special for, you know, the store. And we were going to do it back in February, but it kind of got bigger than he could get done in
Yeah,
the time
it was 'cause there was
that
too much to
allowed
do.
him. And so, well, we'll just do it for June. It'll be the perfect time to celebrate and showcase, and it'll be a nice display in here too, because his paintings are not very small.
No, they're pretty large.
pretty
yeah.
big.
Now, how many pieces are in the show?
There'll be 10 hanging, and I'll be working on an 11th one on the reception night.
Okay, and all these pieces will be for sale,
Oh,
so people
absolutely.
can buy
Yeah,
them
yeah.
and stuff like that. Supporting local businesses and
Exactly.
you know business people.
Local business, local art, all that kind of stuff.
Well, you know, one thing I want to talk about, you know, when we mentioned this sort of being a niche type culture, you know, I think Heroes does a really good job of not only selling to people who have never bought comic books before, but also women, buyers, kids. And typically those people kind of left out of the mix, I think. You know, I think people associate comic buying with like 35-year-old guys who live in their parents' basements.
That's kind of funny that kids are not the typical
Isn't that funny?
comic buyer, and I think they should be.
Yes.
When we moved to this location a little over 10 years ago, there weren't very many comics that kids could get into. Everything was, like you say, for an older reader.
Right.
There was a lot of lobbying going on in the industry to get more kid-friendly comics, and now we've got a huge kids section, and we have a lot of kids coming in. But I think it's because their dads read comics a lot of times, and they're coming to get their books, and they're bringing their kids on Saturday, and kids naturally like comics.
Right, yeah, totally.
So if you give them something to read and you put it in their hands, they're going to eat it up.
How long have you had that kids section like so robust over there?
Well, when we moved here in 2002, I set that section up.
Okay.
And thankfully, it's had more product to put in there over the years, so
Right.
we've got a pretty full section.
Because sales, I mean, for kids comics are not the greatest all the time.
Well, they're not going to be the biggest sales, but you know, Sonic the Hedgehog
Yeah.
is one of our best-selling comics.
And that guy's local.
The writer is local.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Ian didn't create it, but he's been writing it for probably close to 10 years now.
That's amazing to me how that
And,
book is still kind of.
we just sell a big stack of Sonics every month, and we
Wow.
can't keep a back issue. And it's amazing to me because I really don't know the character. I didn't play the game.
Yeah.
Didn't really watch the TV show because I was much older when it was on. Then you know.
Well, you know, speaking of, you know, kids and bringing in new readers, you know, digital now, digital comics is sort of like the new thing that is on the horizon. A lot of comic retailers have a lot of fear about that, you know, being and seeing maybe people might read those and not pick up
Have no
the
fear.
floppies anymore. You have no fear.
I have no fear.
So what do you think about digital comics in general?
Well, think about it. When I was growing up, I bought comics at the drugstore, or I could buy them at 7-Eleven, or probably at the grocery store. They were everywhere. You know, there was
Right.
a spinner rack or a rack of magazines that had a section of comics. You can't find a comic book anywhere but a comic shop now.
right.
We need a farm system out there to get people interested in panel-to-panel stories.
Right.
And if you can get it digitally, get excited about it, if you're serious or you like it, you're going to want to have something to hold.
Right.
You can't collect comic books on a computer. I just don't believe you can.
Right. Well, Warren, speaking from a business perspective, what effect do you think digital is going to have on local retailers like Heroes and Spandex City and places like that?
Again, I don't claim to have that kind of expertise knowledge to know it. I'm going to rely on Shelton to know his business well. But one thing I would note in conjunction with that is that I think anything, to that point, anything that brings people into the idea and expands the idea of who makes up the niche of people who enjoy this medium is a good thing. I mean, the convention, again, is another good entry point, and it's probably a challenge for programming where you've got to have a convention that appeals to your niche insiders for whom knowing who Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko is like table stakes for getting in.
Right.
Never mind other artists who nobody's ever outside the niche has ever heard of.
Well, they're looking to find
and they're looking to
market,
connect with the market. So I think one thing that we can continue to stress with the convention is that it's another outlet for Shelton to reach out to people. And so even if digital does catch on more, one thing I've found interesting about social media and the like is that it does, at least in my experience, increase people's desire to want to get to know each other in person as well.
Okay.
You got tweet ups through Twitter all over the city from time to time too. So a convention is an opportunity for people. I think are always going to want to share their interests.
Right.
And whether it's a book off the shelf or something digital on an iPad, you can you consume it on your own, but you really want to talk about it with people.
Right. Well,
did you see this? Did you see that?
Absolutely.
And so how do you do that?
I wish we could talk about it more, but we're actually out of time, guys. This has been the season finale of 282. Thanks for joining us. You can follow us always on Twitter at 282TV. And I also want to get those dates again. John, your art show is when?
June 1st.
June 1st.
Through June 30th.
Okay, that's 1962. That's going to be at Heroes.
Heroes are hard to find. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
and
Heroes Convention 30th anniversary is June 22nd through the 24th at the Convention Center uptown.
All right, okay.
And I'll use a little moment left to make sure we're clear in the broadcast. What's the address of Heroes Aren't Hard to Find?
1957 East 7th Street.
And the convention is where?
At the Charlotte Convention Center.
Fantastic.
Cool. All right, thanks a lot, folks.